Have you ever noticed that the more you open up to family, the more tangled things can get? You think you're doing the right thing by being honest, by keeping them close. But somehow it backfires. Suddenly, you're being questioned, advised, even judged. I've been there. And let me tell you, after 65, peace is gold. This video isn't about secrets. It's about wisdom, knowing what to share, what to hold back, and how to protect your peace with grace. Let's be real for a second. After 65, it feels like every word you say gets interpreted through a new filter. You mention feeling tired, and someone asks if you need help getting up the stairs. You bring up your savings, and now everyone's got opinions. That's why I made this video. Not to scare you, but to help you navigate those moments with clarity. Because the truth is, not everything needs to be said out loud. Some things deserve quiet. Here's something nobody tells you. After a certain age, people stop hearing you for what you mean. They start hearing you through a lens of worry. You say you feel tired, and suddenly they're talking about assisted living. You mention a small health thing, and they act like you're falling apart. And it's not that they don't love you. They do. But their love can come wrapped in fear. And that fear can start to feel like pressure, like judgment, like control. The real challenge? Staying honest without feeling overexposed. Staying connected without being second-guessed. That's a tricky line to walk. But learning what to hold back and when might just be the best gift you give yourself in this chapter of life. Let's talk about money. Yeah, I know. It's one of those things we're told we should always be upfront about with family. Be transparent, they say. Make sure there are no surprises. And that sounds good in theory. But in practice, it can get messy. Real messy. I remember a man named Martin, 81 years old, retired engineer, sharp as ever. The kind of guy who always had a budget spreadsheet open on his desktop. He believed in doing the right thing. So one day, he called his two sons over and walked them through everything. His pension, his savings, his will, the house deed. He printed reports, highlighted details. You name it. He thought it would give them peace of mind. And at first, it seemed fine. They thanked him, asked a few questions. But then it started. Questions about his spending. Why was he still living in that big house? Whether he should downsize. One son even brought up assisted living. Another asked if they should help manage his accounts, just in case. It wasn't malicious. It was a concern. But over time, Martin started to feel watched, judged. Like every financial decision he made had to pass through a silent approval process. A new recliner? Do you really need that, Dad? A weekend getaway? Should you be traveling right now? Even something as small as treating himself to a nice dinner started feeling like a financial crime. And the worst part? He felt like he'd lost something he didn't even realize he was giving up, his independence. His right to make choices without having to justify them. Now, don't get me wrong. Planning is important. Having a will. Choosing someone you trust for the power of attorney. Make sure your affairs are in order. All that matters. But sharing everything too soon or too openly can shift the energy in your relationships. Suddenly, you're not the decision maker. You're the project everyone's managing. And if you're not careful, the focus moves from how are you doing to what are you doing with your money. Here's what I've learned. You don't owe anyone full access to your accounts. You don't have to break down every purchase or explain why you're giving to a charity, taking a cruise, or buying a new TV. Your financial life is the result of decades of work, saving, and sacrifice. And no one understands that story like you do. So yes, do the paperwork. Be smart. Prepare. But hold on to your right to privacy, to freedom. Because once that door is open, it's really hard to close again. And if someone gets upset because you're not sharing every detail, that might be a red flag. Because people who love you for you, not for what you have, will respect your space. They'll trust you to handle your own life. So ask yourself this. Am I sharing for their benefit or mine? And is it bringing peace or pressure? Sometimes keeping things close isn't secrecy. It's a strength. Let's talk about something we all deal with: aches, pains, and little annoyances that come with age. Your back twinges. Your knees creak. You don't sleep quite as well. It's normal. It's aging. But here's the tricky part. When you mention these things to family, it doesn't always stay casual. What feels like just a quick vent or a passing comment can turn into a full-blown intervention. Take Claire, for example. She's 76, lives on her own, and still keeps a beautiful little garden in her backyard. One weekend, she spent a little too much time pulling weeds and trimming hedges. Nothing serious, just a little soreness in her shoulders. So, over coffee, she casually told her daughter, "My arms are a bit stiff from the yard work." Simple, right? But what happened next? Her daughter panicked. Within days, Claire had an unsolicited physical therapy appointment, multiple check-in calls, and the suggestion that she might need someone to come help around the house. All from one offhand comment. Claire wasn't injured. She wasn't asking for help. She was just sharing a moment from her day. And yet, from that point on, things started shifting. Her daughter began seeing her as fragile. She stopped asking Claire to babysit the grandkids. She made comments about lifting heavy grocery bags or driving long distances. And Claire, who had always been fiercely independent, began to feel boxed in. This happens more than people realize. You mention a headache, and suddenly they want to take your car keys. You talk about feeling a little off, and the next thing you know, someone's asking if you've thought about assisted living. Now, let me be clear. If something serious is going on, speak up. Always. Your family deserves to know when there's a real need for support or care. But not every ache needs an audience. Not every sneeze needs a conversation. Because when you share every little thing, people start to create a version of you that isn't accurate. They start to see decline where there's just normal life. And once that image is built, it's hard to undo. You go from being capable to being managed. You stop getting invited to help, and instead, people try to help you, whether you need it or not. So here's what I've learned. Check in with yourself first. Are you sharing because you need help, or are you just venting? Is it something you'd normally shrug off? If so, maybe let it stay between you and your journal, or bring it up with your doctor instead. Because the more you talk about your health, the more your health becomes the story people tell about you. And you are so much more than that. You are not your arthritis. You are not your insomnia. You are not your sore shoulder from gardening. You are strong, capable, and you get to decide how people see you. So protect your independence by choosing your words carefully, not from fear, but from wisdom. Let's be honest. When you've lived through decades of family holidays, school plays, arguments, and reconciliations, you've seen a lot. And sometimes it feels like you have a front row seat to your children's or grandchildren's drama, and you just want to jump in and help. You see two of them arguing, and you think, if I just say the right thing, I can fix this. Or maybe you gently suggest a better way to parent, manage money, or talk to a spouse. You mean well. You really do. But here's what I've learned. Your words don't always land the way you hope they will. Even the gentlest suggestion can be taken as criticism. Even silence can be read as disapproval. I've been there. Most of us have. Let me tell you about my friend Miriam. She's 80 now, still sharp as a tack, with a heart made of gold. One afternoon, while visiting her daughter, she said, softly, without judgment, maybe little Josh could help clean up his toys. It might teach him some responsibility. Seems innocent, right? But the air changed. Her daughter went quiet. The calls became less frequent. Invitations stopped. Just like that. The connection was strained over a single sentence that, in Miriam's eyes, was filled with love and good intentions. That's the thing about family dynamics. They're loaded with history. Your kids aren't just hearing what you said today. They're hearing every time they felt misunderstood growing up. Every comparison, every old hurt. And when you speak, even kindly, it can open old wounds you didn't mean to touch. You might think, I'm just being helpful, but to them, it might feel like judgment, like you're taking sides, like you don't trust them to figure it out on their own. And then what happens? You're the one who ends up feeling hurt, left out, misunderstood. So what do you do instead? You stay steady. You stay kind. You keep your heart open, but your opinion's guarded. You say, I trust you to work it out, and mean it. You offer a listening ear, not a solution. You let them come to you if and when they're ready. Because here's the truth. Your wisdom doesn't need to come through advice. Sometimes, your calm presence speaks louder than any words could. You've earned the right to step back and breathe, not get pulled into every disagreement. Let your peace be contagious. Let your silence be a form of strength. And remember, you're not turning your back. You're giving them space to grow, just like someone once did for you. Let's talk about regrets. We've all got them. Maybe you wish you had traveled more. Maybe you stayed in a job too long. Maybe there's a relationship you wish you'd handled differently. These thoughts show up, especially as we get older, when life slows down just enough for us to look back. And sometimes when we're sitting with our kids or grandkids, we let one of those regrets slip out. Not because we're blaming anyone, not because we want sympathy, just because it's part of our story. But here's the thing. What we see as reflection, they can hear as rejection. I remember Norma, a retired school teacher I met a few years ago. One day, during a quiet walk with her daughter, she said, sometimes I wish I hadn't given up my dream of traveling the world. That's all she said. Nothing heavy, nothing dramatic. But her daughter took it hard. She later admitted that it made her feel like her mom had sacrificed too much, and that maybe she and her siblings had been the reason her mom missed out on something she loved. That small comment left a big impact. And Norma, who only meant to share a personal moment of longing, ended up feeling guilty for even saying it. This kind of thing happens more often than we talk about. A simple sentence can plant a seed of hurt, even when it wasn't intended. You say, I wish I had worked longer, and your family hears, you weren't enough. You say, I should have moved somewhere else, and they feel like their hometown, the place you raised them, wasn't good enough. It's not fair, but it's real. Now, does that mean you should keep everything bottled up? No, your feelings are valid. You've earned the right to look back and feel what you feel. But maybe, just maybe, some of those reflections are best kept close. Not because they're shameful, but because they're sacred. And if you do want to share something, consider the way you frame it. Instead of saying, I wish I had done this or that, try, I've learned so much from the life I've lived. That way, you still get to express your truth, but you do it without handing someone else your sadness. Because your story isn't just about what you missed. It's also about what you gained, the love you gave, the strength you built, the moments you shaped for others. So when regrets come knocking, welcome them, sit with them, learn from them. But you don't have to turn them into the family conversation. You don't have to share every shadow to be real. You've lived a life worth honoring. You get to decide which parts become stories and which ones simply stay part of your soul. Let's talk about something that makes a lot of us uncomfortable: inheritance. Who gets what? How things will be divided. When you reach a certain age, people start saying things like, you should make sure everyone knows your plans. They mean well, but here's the truth. Sharing too much, too early, can do more harm than good. Take Edna, for example. She's 83, a retired nurse, and one of the most generous people you'll ever meet. She didn't want her kids fighting after she was gone, so she sat them down one day and told them everything. The house would be sold, the savings would be split, and certain heirlooms would already be promised. At first, it seemed like a smart move, but not long after, things changed. Her daughter, who lived out of state, started questioning why she wasn't getting more. After all, I moved away and gave up so much. Her son began calling more often, but with subtle questions about timelines and market value. And the youngest? He got quiet, hurt, but unwilling to say why. Edna didn't mean to stir anything up. She was trying to bring peace. Instead, she ended up feeling like a referee in a game she never signed up for. And here's the hard part. Once your plans are out there, you can't take them back. People remember what you said. They hold on to it. They start to measure your choices. Why are you going on that cruise if you said you wanted to leave more for the grandkids? Why are you still living in that house if you plan to sell it later? It's like your life becomes a running total in someone else's spreadsheet. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't have a plan. You absolutely should. Have a will. Name an executor. Put everything in legal order. That's smart. That's love. But that doesn't mean you need to announce it like a weather report. You don't owe anyone a preview of your legacy. Because your legacy isn't just money or property. It's how you lived, how you showed up, the traditions you passed on, the stories you told. That's what really lasts. So before you share every detail, ask yourself, am I doing this for clarity or control? Am I bringing peace or planting seeds of expectation? Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for your family is to keep some things between you, your lawyer, and your conscience. Protect your right to live your life on your terms all the way to the end. You've earned that freedom. And when the time comes, let your love, not your balance sheet, be what they remember most. Let me say this as clearly as I can. You've spent your life giving, your time, your energy, your love. You've raised children, built a home, and held people together. And now, in this season of life, you deserve something just as important, peace. Not the kind that comes from silence, but the kind that comes from knowing you don't have to explain yourself anymore. The kind that comes from protecting your boundaries and making choices that feel right to you. People might not always understand why you hold certain things back. That's okay. They don't have to. What matters is that you feel steady, respected, and free. Because peace is not a luxury. It's a right you've earned. You don't need everyone to agree with your decisions. You just need to know they're yours. And that, my friend, is what freedom looks like at this stage of life. Calm, confident, and completely yours to define. Here's what I hope you take away from all of this. You don't have to share everything to live honestly. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every truth needs to be explained. At this point in your life, you've earned a right to choose what stays sacred. You've earned a space to be a little quieter, a little more protective of your own peace. You are still growing, still learning, still deciding what matters. And that means you get to change your mind. You get to keep some things just for you. Because your presence, your peace, and your quiet wisdom speak louder than any long explanation ever could. That's real power. If something in this message spoke to you, take a moment. Reflect. Maybe even share one thing you're choosing to keep just for yourself. Or not. Sometimes the choice to stay quiet is just as powerful. And if you found comfort here, I'd love for you to subscribe. We're building a thoughtful little corner of the internet. One that honors wisdom, calm, and the beauty of growing older with intention. You're not alone on this journey. Let's keep walking it together.